When I first learned about Joy through reading C.S. Lewis, I had only known about her through the movie Shadowlands, and that movie really covers only the last few years of her life. And most people know her today, if they know of her at all, as the wife of C.S. Lewis. Reading C.S. Lewis biographies, I started seeing a pattern of a lot of kind of glossy, idealized versions of joy. And I think maybe partly that's in reaction to the way that many of Lewis's friends felt about Joy. Many people didn't. Many of his friends did not like her. It was Oxford. It was the 1950s. She was Jewish. There was some anti-Semitism. She was divorced. It was the 1950s, and she was a single mother of two children, and she was also not a very nice, socially proper person. She not only had a New York attitude, but even in New York, she was a little over the top and not extremely likable. So I think my portrait is much more full, to answer your question, more nuanced, more layered, multidimensional, and captures her as a full, complicated human being who who was vibrant and manipulative and had redemptive qualities as well as qualities that are difficult for us to grapple with in terms of some of her choices in life and her behavior. She was, like C.S. Lewis said, a sinful woman married to a sinful man. She was not a perfect saint. It was a challenge at times because I really struggled with how some of her behavior hurt other people, including her two children and her first husband, Bill. But and that kind of came through in some early drafts. And I had a great editor who said, you need to go back through and have more compassion for her. So that was one way, was through a great editor. And another way is to remember that I'm no better than her. I am just as human as she is, and to look at my own life and see my own flaws. And then I also, every once in a while, would pop in the movie Shadowlands and watch Deborah Winger's portrayal of Joy, because even though it's a somewhat fictionalized Hollywood version, Deborah Winger was able to capture Joy's vulnerabilities and humanize her in a way that was good for me to be reminded of. One of the things that Lewis loved about Joy, and that really, I think, opened him up to her, was that she challenged him and she pushed him and she argued with him in ways that he reveled in. He loved being challenged, and there were very few people who did that, and there were even fewer people who did it effectively and did it well and could actually outwit him in some conversations. And Joy was one of those people, and she happened to be a woman. She had a tremendous impact on both his personal and professional life. Personally, of course, he'd been in his 50s and he didn't think he was going to ever get married, and he wasn't searching for love. And Joy kind of thrust her way into his life and brought out his own vulnerabilities and an emotional intelligence in him. He was so intellectual, and his previous books before Joy came into his life are very reasoned and logical and intellectual about faith and matters of the heart. And after Joy, he had a deeper understanding of love, of friendship, and of course of grief. Professionally, some of C.S. Lewis's greatest works would not exist without Joy. I don't know that we'd be friends. I admire certain things about her. I admire her perseverance and her intellect and her writing. she was a difficult person, and she wasn't very sensitive to the people who are around her, which is something that I find important in friends. Uh, so I'm not sure that we would be friends, and I'm not sure that I would really like her, tremendously personally, though I admire those things about her. Thanks so much for having me.